Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Beth Ahabah virtually. My name is Cantor Sarah Beck-Berman. At the piano is our music director, Natan Berenstein, and helping out with sound and video is Heather Dinkin, our director of operations. Our service tonight is using Mishkan Tefillah, which if you don't have a hard copy or a Kindle copy, can be found online in a free flip book, thanks to the CCAR Press, who made that free flip book available. The link to the flip book you should have received in the email that came out to all of our members, giving you the link to this service, and should also be available through our website calendar. All of the pages are the same, and I'll do my best to announce page numbers, but please be aware that often in this prayer book, prayers are on a two-page layout. On the right-hand side, the Hebrew and transliteration and translation into English, and on the left-hand side are often alternate prayers and poems and readings along that same theme of the prayer. So when in doubt, just turn the page. Our service tonight begins on page 20. And on page 20 is an old piyut, an old liturgical poem called Lecha Dodi. We will be singing verses 1, 2, and then, as is the custom, wherever you are, if you're comfortable doing so, you can rise for the last verse, verse 9, and face the door of your house as we're symbolically and literally welcoming the Shabbat Queen, the Sabbath Queen, into our midst. And I'll announce that standing up for those who are comfortable when we get to verse 9. So on page 20, Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Shamur v'zachor b'dibur echad, yishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad, Shemu echad, l'shemu tiferet v'leit hilah. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Ligrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki him mekor haberacha, mirash mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh v'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. We rise, bo'eh v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzolo, toch emunei am segula. Bo'eh chala, bo'eh chala. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likeret kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Shabbat Shalom. As we welcome Shabbat, we light candles and we say a blessing over wine or grape juice, the symbol of our great joy that it is now or soon to be Shabbat. We mark this transition from regular everyday time into sacred time, first by lighting the candles. On page 2 in our prayer books. On page 2, I invite you all to say the blessing for the Shabbat candles with me as I light the candles on behalf of all of you, and you're all welcome to gather your own candles and your own wine or grape juice for those blessings at home. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. And we turn to page 5 as we sing together the blessing over the wine or grape juice, called the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila le'mikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Delicious, as the rabbi would say. Speaking of the rabbi, we wish him and his entire family a big l'chaim and Shabbat Shalom on their first Shabbat of their family vacation this summer. We continue in our service on page 28. Page 28 in our prayer books, now that we have marked that distinction between everyday time and the sacred time of Shabbat, we come together as one community and we rise for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu. As we turn to page 31 for our prayer for the evening sky, we think about the changing seasons and how those are reflected in the stars and constellations, all of which are part of creation. And I ask my customary question, What phase is the moon in? And the answer tonight is that tonight and tomorrow are the 5th of the Hebrew month of Tammuz, the 5th of Tammuz. This early in the month, it means we've just come from a new moon, so it will be a waning crescent tonight, and the first quarter moon, where the moon appears to be half illuminated, will be in the wee hours of Sunday morning on the 28th. So just in a couple of days, the moon is going to appear half full, on its way towards being actually full. We say together at the bottom of page 31 our prayer for the evening. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Amen. We continue remaining standing for those who are comfortable on page 34 as we prepare to say the Shema. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Please be seated, and we continue with the Via Hafta on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shirantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We continue on page 40 with the Micha Mocha, our song of freedom. Micha Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Amen. We continue as we celebrate, keyword celebrate, as the rabbi always says, with Yismechu, which is on page 44 at the bottom of the page. Yismechu v'malchutecha, Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg oneg Shabbat. Amekadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Amekadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam yisbeu v'yitangu, mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg oneg Shabbat. V'hashevi ratzita bo, v'kidashto v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yanim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg oneg Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh v'reshit Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh v'reshit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, Yismechu v'malchutecha, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, Shomrei Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg oneg Shabbat. Yeah. Right, Heather? Yeah. We come now to the central part of our service, the Tefillah, which begins on page 46 and continues over the next several pages, beginning on page 46 with the congregation, wherever we are. Please rise. Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanura, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, morid hatal, mechalkel chaim bechesed, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומיתו מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated. We continue reading together on page 51. So we're flipping back just one page. We pray that we might know before whom we stand, the power whose gift is life, who quickens those who have forgotten how to live. We pray for the winds to disperse the choking air of sadness, for cleansing rains to make parched hopes flower, and to give all of us the strength to rise up toward the sun. We pray for love to encompass us, for no other reason save that we are human, for love through which we may all blossom into persons who have gained power over our own lives. We pray to stand upright, we fallen, to be healed, we sufferers. We pray to break the bonds that keep us from the world of beauty. We pray for opened eyes, we who are blind to our own authentic selves. We pray that we may walk in the garden of a purposeful life, our own powers in touch with the power of the world. Praised be the God whose gift is life, whose cleansing rains let parched men and women and people flower toward the sun. Amen. We continue with the silent Amidah, our silent prayer and reflection, either using the words on the page, in coming back together again once more on page 62 at the bottom, or using the words in our hearts. At the bottom of page 62, our prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, At this time in our service, we think of all those in need of healing. And as we turn to page 253 in our prayer books, the indented paragraph in the middle of the page. But before we sing the Mishaberach for healing together, I invite any of you who are thinking of someone or someone's, thinking of their healing, hoping that they can be better. For all of us in our community, in our city, in our country, in our world who are in need of healing, I invite you to share those names in your minds or out loud at this time. On page 253, the Mishaberach for healing.
Source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mikor habracha. Those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
This week's Torah portion is Parashat Korach in the book of Numbers, beginning in Numbers chapter 16. Last week, we talked about fear and how experiencing trauma, as in the case of the people Israel as they were experiencing slavery and the exodus from Egypt, how that can lead people to make unhealthy decisions from a place of fear. This week is, in some ways, a continuation of that topic along similar lines, how fear, among other things, can lead us to uncritically absorb messages which are partly true and partly not true, and the damage that those messages can do by slipping in the things that are not true, and sometimes we let that happen because of the things that are true in those messages. In the very beginning of our portion, Numbers chapter 16, verse 1 and following, Korach, who is a descendant of Levi, like Moses and Aaron, but from a different son, along with several named descendants of Reuven, rose up against Moses, together with 250 representatives of the Israelites, chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly with fine reputations. They combined against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, Rav Lachem, for all the community are holy, all of them, and the Eternal is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourselves above the Eternal's congregation?" This is, in my mind, what I think of as Korach's power move. Korach is working behind the scenes. This sort of thing doesn't just happen overnight. He's gaining support among men and leaders who we are told are upright leaders in the community. It's not like it's a rabble. It's people who are important, and the implication here is that it's people who are reasonable, they've been given positions of responsibility. So clearly, the words that Korach is using and the messages that he has been sending are very convincing messages that led these 250 including the two descendants of Reuven, these 252 people to go against Moses and Aaron, even though they had seen all of the things they had previously seen in the Exodus. So Korach's power move here is really an intense wordplay. It references God's own words earlier in the Torah. The idea that the entire nation is holy, all the community are holy, all of them, and the eternal is in their midst. This is absolutely true. And there's at least two references I can think of right offhand from earlier in the Torah where God says this very thing. In Exodus chapter 19, verse 6, God says, if you obey me and do all the things and so on and so forth, you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel, God says to Moses. You shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation for me, says God. That's in Exodus. And then in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1, the Eternal spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the whole Israelite community and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Eternal your God, am holy. So, and I'm sure there's other places where this is said. Those are just the first two big ones that came to mind. So we're told not only that the whole Israelite community is in fact holy, kadosh is the word specifically used, but even a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So if we're all a kingdom of priests, then why is it that there's actually a priestly class of people, a group of people whose job it is, passed down from father to son, to do the actual priestly duties, which in ancient times would include things like animal offerings and incense offerings, and those offerings were seen as a way of connecting to the divine, of communicating with and connecting with the divine. So if we're all priests, if we're a kingdom of priests, then why are only some of us able to do those important jobs? This is one of the core things that Korach is saying. And there are commentaries that suggest that this part of what Korach is saying is absolutely valid, and that if he had left it there, and if he had approached this question with more humility, that things may have gone very differently. However, that's only the first claim that Korach makes. The second claim is different. The second claim is, why do you, Moses and Aaron, raise yourselves up above the community? You take too much upon yourselves. So Korach is taking the idea that all of us should be able to participate in these priestly rituals, and he's making it Moses and Aaron's fault that they can't. He's saying that Moses and Aaron are responsible for the division of labor. And for those of us who have been reading the story up to this point, we know that that is simply not true. And that the story, the way it is presented to us in the Torah, is absolutely 100% clear that God has appointed Aaron as the high priest, and God chose Moses to be the leader of this people. So in the context of our story, we know that Korach is framing it as Moses and Aaron have taken on too much, but that the reality is different. God is the final decider on these matters, which is why, even though Korach may have convinced the people that rebelled with him that they were rebelling against Moses and Aaron and not against God, ultimately the narrative and the story that we're reading frames it as it was a rebellion against God. After Korach and the other rebels are decisively defeated through supernatural means, and if you want to know more about that, it's in chapter 16, there is another interesting coda that happens after that incident. God tells Moses to collect a staff from each of the 12 tribal leaders with their names inscribed, including Aaron's staff, representing the tribe of Levi, and put all these staffs by the Ark of the Covenant. God says that the staff of the chosen leadership will sprout, and surely this sign, says God, will end the incessant muttering of the Israelites against Moses and Aaron. And as an aside, I'm not really sure if this is like aspirational and hopeful or what, because the track record so far is not great. But anyway, surely this sign will end the incessant muttering of the Israelites against Moses and Aaron. And sure enough, they check on the staffs the next day, and there are 11 regular old staffs, just the way they left them, and then Aaron's staff, which has sprouted, blossomed, and produced almonds overnight. How can we read this image as a follow-up to the Korach rebellion? Is it just a show of more supernatural power to try to convince people of things that they may or may not ever possibly be convinced of? I think there's another reading we can make, maybe a metaphorical reading. The coping mechanisms are really the problem. The coping mechanisms that the Israelites developed during their panicked and oppressed lives, those coping mechanisms were the staff that they leaned on every time something scary came up, every time they stumbled or they thought that maybe they were about to stumble. Out came these coping mechanisms of fear and blame and panic, and we see it over and over again, multiple times in this week's portion alone. They didn't have a solid internal foundation from which to base their observations of reality. Because of the trauma that they've sustained, their perceptions of reality are warped when they're in this place of fear. And for some of them, that's probably all the time. This includes listening to the fear-mongering message of the spies in last week's portion. It includes, in this week's portion, that Korach was able to win over 250 community leaders that the Torah explicitly describes as upstanding and reputable. So obviously, leaning on these coping mechanisms is leading them to incorrect perceptions and unhealthy choices. But what would happen if they were able to transform their coping mechanisms? What if, instead of manna, God had sent a lot of therapists? Or maybe in addition to the manna. If instead of instantly lashing out every time they were afraid and blaming or trying to find someone to blame every time they thought something was going wrong, if instead of those things, they learned to slow down and wait for the clearer picture, to formulate thoughtful and productive responses, constructive responses, like Aaron's staff was producing the almonds, it might be a different story. It would be a different story. The portion also tells us that the 250 copper fire pans that the rebels used to offer incense were hammered into plating for the altar. This reminds me of that image from much later in Isaiah, beating swords into plowshares. But I think that the lesson of Aaron's staff is that beating swords into plowshares is step 2. It's a step of taking unified action to change the society that we're in. And it's external. But this is only possible to do successfully after or including the first step, which is changing how we think and how we react. So if we allow ourselves, like those Israelites were, to be swayed like a reed, reacting to speeches and to ideas that are intended to use our emotional reactivity to get our buy-in, often by saying some things that are true and some things that are not true in the same speech, then we do not have that stability of Aaron's staff. If we treat emotional reactivity and anxiety and panic as a sound basis from which to formulate our policy and our choices, then we have not truly seen the transformation and blossoming of Aaron's staff. This can be on the smallest and most personal level. How do I react when difficult topics come up in conversation? Have I ever lashed out at someone in ways that were actively counterproductive, even to my own stated goals? Another question you could ask yourself, and that I ask myself with some frequency, is, do I feel tense right now? And if I'm responding to someone and I start to feel my physical reaction going to a place I recognize as being a place of frustration, then you write in a little code, or at least I did. I wrote in a little code in my mind. Yes, I'm starting to feel frustrated. Perhaps I should take a step back and not accidentally step right in it. So part of our journey into shalom, into shlemut, which means wholeness, completion, achieving our best self, has to be first transforming my own mental image of what is acceptable behavior and reactions, and then start changing my decisions and choices. And as the years pass by, it's like watching a tree grow and eventually bear fruit. And on this Shabbat, for the rest of our lives, may we learn to be like Aaron, who was named a pursuer of peace, Rodef Shalom. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. We turn now in our prayer books to page 282 at the bottom of the page for the Aleinu, which continues on page 287. But first, the bottom paragraph on page 282, and would everyone please rise who is comfortable for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ואנחנו קוראים, משתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
You may be seated. We come now to the part of our service where we remember those who have gone before us. And as we turn to page 294 for the Mourner's Kaddish, Beth Ahabah remembers the recent passing of Earl Mark Ferguson. And we also mark the yardsites or anniversaries of passing of Naomi Rose Beckenstein, Frank Badofsky, Marion Dadelbaum, Jeanette Feldman, Robert Cast, Ruth S. Mautner, Ruth Wolf Meyer, Alec Mullen, Norbert Napientek, Jim Noonan, Harry Rosenzweig, Harry Schwartzchild Jr., Jerome A. Scowler, Charlotte W. Shapiro, Johnny L. Shepard, Asher Simon, Estelle J. Steiner, John Wagner Jr., James A. Wharton. And if any of us here tonight are observing Shiva, the 7 days following a death, Shloshim, the 30 days following the death of a loved one, a yardsight, the anniversary of passing, or if there's simply someone that you'd like to remember on the occasion of this Shabbat, please share their name in your mind or out loud or on the live stream chat at this time. For all these people, and for all the people who have no one to remember them, we say the mourner's Kaddish. With those observing Shiva, Shloshim, a yard site, those who are in mourning, please rise. And with the entire congregation, as is our custom here at Beth Ahabah, please rise in support of one another as we say the mourner's Kaddish together on page 294. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shalama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Yehi zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and let us say Amen. You may be seated. Announcements. Not too many announcements. Virtual Torah study continues on Thursdays at noon. See the e-news or the website calendar for log-in details. Next Friday, please join us here again on YouTube for our Shabbat service at 6:15 p.m. Speaking of live streaming our services, also watch the e-news for more information about resuming in-person services, or rather an additional in-person option for attending services, which will begin in August. Mark your calendars for a virtual Tisha B'Av service with me on Wednesday, July 29th, beginning at 7 p.m. Religious school registration is open. Please see the e-news or click the Education tab on our website to register. And to find out any additional information about any of these programs or events, please check the e-news or our website calendar, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. At this time, before we close our service, gather our families together, either in person or mentally. We're thinking of those people that we'd like to offer a blessing, and we offer these family blessings. Yisimech Elohim Kisara, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May God inspire you to live like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Yisimcha Elohim Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May God inspire you to live like Ephraim and Menashe, all of whom led forth our people with strength. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. May God bless you and keep you, be gracious to you, and may you always find peace. Amen. And lest we forget our furry, scaly, and fishy and other types of friends, the only two pet blessings I know are for the dogs and the cats, so fill in the blanks for everybody else. For the dogs, may you be like Caleb, the faithful one, Caleb, who we just met in last week's Torah portion. And for the cats, may you be like the Lion of Judah. If anyone thinks of good pet blessings, comparing your pet to somebody from the Bible, send me an email. Our closing song tonight is on page 373. Page 373. At the top of the page, going back and forth between open up our eyes and the chorus right beneath it, Kol Haneshama.
Open up our eyes and teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and love you have to give. Kol haneshama tehalleluya. Kol haneshama tehalleluya. Hallelujah. Oh, gather us in peace as you lead us to your name. Oh, gather us in peace, and we will know that you are one. Kol haneshama tehalleluya. Kol haneshama tehalleluya. Hallelujah. That you are one. Hallelujah. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May we all be blessed this week and in the coming months and in the coming year with strength and with peace and with self-awareness. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.